Hi guys, I need to look something up real quick. Fourth Ring was published May 2nd, 2023. And I have read this book 3 times since then. I finished it for the 3rd time, March of 2024. So let's talk about it. The first time I read Fourth Ring, and it was advertised because it had just been released. I think I read it in June. So it had just been released. Like, it was maybe a month and a half, when I started seeing it all over TikTok. It was a sensation. It was everywhere. And it kept being referred to as the next ACOTAR book. Like, the next ACOTAR series. I didn't mind most of the ACOTAR books. Well, okay, actually, I liked book 3 and book 2. And half of Silver Flames. And so I was like, okay, you know what? I'll try this new book about dragons. I'll try it. I don't know if I'll like it, obviously. You never know if you'll actually like a book when you start it or not. But I was like, I got it because it was available from my library, and the next ACOTAR book wasn't available, and none of the other books I put on hold were available. So I downloaded it from my library. It was the audiobook version. The audiobook was, I believe, like 24 hours long. And I just hit play. And I only stopped it to, like, sleep, because I finished it in, like, 36 hours. I stayed up until, like, 2 in the morning just listening to the book. And then I woke up and I finished it. It was so good. I just fell in love with it. When I first read the book, I had this huge book hangover that TikTok was kind of feeding into. Every single TikTok that I got, both before and after I finished the book, was all about Fourth Ring. It was everywhere. So after I read it that first time, I knew that it was like, you know what? When I read it again, it's probably not going to be as good. I was like, I love the book so much that when book 2 was released in November, I believe, let me look that up. Okay, yeah, book 2 was released in November. So when November came around, I reread Fourth Ring because I was like, you know what? Maybe it's not really as good as I remembered, and I was just in the mood for that book. But I read it again in the physical form this time. I had gotten the special edition, the holiday edition of Fourth Ring. So I read it. I read the bonus chapters, and it was just as good as I remembered. So when book 2 came out, I devoured that book too. Book 2, not as good as book 1. However, those books are so good. I enjoy them both tremendously. I never read books that close together, like a reread that close together. But it was still so good. So, anyway, book club rolls around. And we're trying to figure out a book. And everyone I had suggested Fourth Ring to fell in love with it. I was like, book club girlies, I know you don't read fantasy, but you're gonna love this book. And nobody liked it. My husband makes 3D prints. Hold on, let me show you these. Okay, someone let my son get into my dragon, so he's missing his feet. But look at that. My husband just randomly makes me dragons because of Fourth Ring, basically. I don't know how this one broke, but I mean, it's a foil one anyway. But look at that. I also have a little green, like, baby dragon. My little Andorna. Look at her. Look at how cute she is. Because of how much I love this series. Now, my third reread when I read this for book club, I read this the graphic audio version way, and let me tell you, it was not nearly as good. I don't know if it's the graphic audio that made it not as good, or if I just like hyped it up in my head so much. But that's why I read it the second time, because I knew I hyped it up in my head so much. But it still lived up to its hype the second time. So I'm very confused. I'm going to just blame it on the graphic audio. Even though that's not fair. I'm not going to blame it on the graphic audio. Although I did have my issues with the graphic audio, which we should talk about. This is going to be full-on spoilers for Fourth Wing. Let's talk. I loved the dragons in this book. I loved how dragons talk to humans. I don't really understand why Taryn is so different from all the other dragons. Like, the other dragons don't care if people fall off their backs and die, but Taryn cares. I don't know why. I think it has something to do with Nolan, whatever, the guy who tried to save Brennan and died. Because Taryn's rider died to save Brennan. I don't know. I don't know if that's why Taryn is so protective of Violet, or because Taryn knows that Violet's going to be his last rider, so he's trying to keep himself alive. I don't know, but it is kind of weird. But that being said, I love that he's like the grumpy old dad, and then Andarna is like the little baby. Liked Violet's and Xaden's relationship a lot. Obviously it has its flaws, but I think it's very practical and realistic. I get why Xaden, kept the secrets from Violet in this book. Because her stupid best friend can literally read her memories, and I don't think it's fair for Violet to hate Xaden for keeping secrets. His dad died for the rebellion. I don't think it's fair for Violet to be mad at him for that. But she is also a 20-year-old girl trying to figure her life out, and everything about her life just got, stripped away in this book. Everything that she thought she knew wasn't true. So it does make sense why she'd be upset. I just don't think she's focusing on the right things to be upset about. I love the world building in this book. I loved the fantastical elements. I do wish it was more of a harder magic system, though, where it's not just, you can have a magical ability that lets you do anything. Oh, the plot needs this type of magical ability. Oh, this person has that signet. I wish there were more, rules to it, or maybe, it's all elemental-based magic, but, some people can only do ice or, frozen water. That would have been, a cool thing, where, there's subsets of each element. And maybe Violet could have, a special subset of whatever the Black Dragon would have given her. But I do like the fact that Violet always thought of herself as the scribe, as the person that's not into violence. And Xaden, right off the bat, calls her Violence, although there should be something sad about giving people nicknames, and then them saying they don't like the nickname, and you not caring and still calling them that nickname. You should respect what people want to be called. But that aside, Xaden knew Violet's true nature before Violet herself did. And when Violet did get the lightning ability, she, kind of had an internal crisis about herself, because everything that she thought she knew about herself has also changed. She's not a mender like Brennan. She's not the peacekeeper scribe like her dad. She is a weapon like her mom, who she does not want to be like. And I really like that aspect about her. I'm very interested to see how Andarna plays into it all. But that's not for a couple of more books, I guess. I guessed the ending with Brennan, right away. But that's not to say the last page wasn't so impactful. I actually really liked the voice actor for Xaden in the original audiobook. And I love the fact that he voiced the whole last chapter. Okay, and let's rant about the graphic audio for a second. I don't like a lot of the voice actors that they had. I feel like if they had flipped Xaden and Dane around, it would be a lot better. Also, not the biggest fan of Taryn's voice. Also, they took out too much, I think. The graphic audios are an adaptation of the books, and some of them are actually really good. Like, if you're reading ACOTAR, I definitely suggest the graphic audio, because they did a really good job with those, and you could understand the story very well with those. With the graphic audio for Fourth Wing, it was very not clear, at least to me, and maybe it was just a me thing, like maybe someone else will read it and they actually really liked it. But for me, it was harder to follow the graphic audio than it was the regular audiobook or the book itself. And I don't know if that's because like all the dialogue tags were out and so I was confusing voices, or if it was just confusing being translated the way that it was. I don't know. The only graphic audios I've listened to have been the ACOTAR and now Fourth Wing. Or maybe one or two other books. I don't remember. I don't know if that's the reason why it didn't hold up as well as it had in the past, or if maybe my reading tastes have changed. But I really loved Fourth Wing the first time I read it, and the second time I read it. But I do understand it's not for everyone. It is a thick book, and there is a lot of that Sanderson-esque, like, build up going on, and then the Sandra Lynch coming down. Sanderson does that, Sarah J. Maas does that, Fourth Wing and Iron Flame do that, where it's a lot of build up. And if you're not enjoying the build up, then it is hard to get through it. However, I love the Sandra Lynch's. I love how the last 100 pages of a lot of fantasy novels is just bang, 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 action, resolution. I like that a lot, but I do understand that the waiting for the build-up, all of the time spent training, a lot of Violet's internal monologue might be a little bit off-putting for some people. Also, I do understand like a lot of people going into this book because it is advertised as the next ACOTAR, and even though there is like two people falling in love in the book, it's not necessarily a romantasy. It is a lot more of just the fantasy. The romance in it is kind of like the spice level of like the first ACOTAR book. But it's really just to like move the relationship along. Which, I mean, if you're looking for something where there's a lot more of the relationship building up, it is pretty fast. It's from the very first chapter, Violet is intrigued by Xaden. And when you go to look back at the Xaden POVs in the Holiday Edition, you see Xaden was also very intrigued from the very first moment as well. So there wasn't really a lot of the enemies to lovers, so much as there was a lot of the bad boy to lovers, which it is marketed as a romantasy, enemies to lovers. So if you're going in expecting that, you might be disappointed. I really enjoyed how it all played out, but some people might not. I think that the romantic level in Mistborn is the perfect amount of romance per fantasy, but a lot of people might be the complete opposite and would rather a Silver Flames type fantasy. So it's really like depends on what your level is and if you'll consider it a romantasy or not. I think if people give it the chance, they'll enjoy it too. But what are your thoughts on Fourth Wing? Let me know, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.